Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. We still surviving off of grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity. Like living in a fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't even need a reason. It's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. City got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics. Like condom with some trinkets, just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets to blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat. And maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on song.
What's happening, good people? This is RSTV. It's been a minute. It's been a few minutes. I'm happy to be here. My green screen is kind of raggedy, so if my hair look green, it's really not green. Don't worry about it. It's just how we doing today. I guess it might be a reflection of my personality turning into like the Hulk or something. You know what I mean? So, we'll be all right though. For folks who are just tuning in for the first time, my name is Kalonji Changa. I represent Black Power Media, represent RSTV. That's the name of this show. Trying to get this hood in order right now. Don't worry, it's going to be all right. I'm grateful to be here, and I wanted to show up at 3:15 on a Friday. You know what I'm saying? TGIF, as they say. And I wanted to talk about some things. We have a few new projects coming out, and I wanted to bring on a few of my favorite freedom fighters. So, to talk about some of these projects and to talk about the state of what's going on in this wonderful world we live in. Again, it's Black Power Media. Check us out, blackpowermedia.org. Make sure you join our mailing list. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Black Power Media Reloaded, youtube.com/Black Power Media Reloaded. I said, you know what, I might need a co-host because I haven't been out here so long. So I had to reach out. I said, who can match my energy? Who can come out here and just act a fool? I said, I got to get somebody that's in ATL. You know what I mean? And if I got someone in ATL, I had to get someone who is in tune with the Lord. And I said, Claude, have mercy. Who might we have? And my sister, Keyanna Jones Moore, Reverend Keyanna Jones Moore, if you know anything about anything in Atlanta. What's happening, Keyanna? How you feeling?
I am feeling amazing on this Free 'em All Friday.
Boy, what you
I'm
talking about?
glad to see you, brother, because it has been a while.
It's been a while, and it is absolutely Free 'em All Friday. And see, that's why we call Keyanna, because, she know what time it is. She pays attention to detail. Some
I
folks
try.
don't know. Yeah.
I
So
try.
so we here in the land of I was about to say milk and honey.
All things imaginary.
All
That is
things
not a real
imaginary.
place.
The mirage, right? You know what I'm saying? In the land of the mirage. So we said,
Absolutely.
yeah. And first off, I want to welcome you to the Black Power Media family. And one of the things you said yesterday that was, well, a couple days ago, was that we call it reloaded because we sometimes we had to be sucker free. So we wanted to be clear about that. We didn't want folks to think that, it's a new channel, a new name. It's still Black Power Media, but we reloaded. So we wanted to be clear about that. You've been doing a lot of work out in ATL for quite a while. I want to salute you. Uh, Today we'll talk about a few things. We're going to talk about Revolution in These Times, a book that we've done with our man Dhoruba Bin Wahad, who's going to be joining us. He'll be turning his camera on in a second. And we also have one of my other partners in crime, one of the fearless academics out here. And I'm saying that not because that's all she is, but because of the fact that, oftentimes, you have folks who talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. But this individual has been brave enough to, ride shotgun, and she's no stranger to our platform, Dr. Joy James. So I'm going to bring those folks on to assist us in this extravaganza. And
Yeah, this is a real honor for me because this is my first time being able to share space with both Dr. Joy and with Dhoruba. So this is, and let me be correct, with Baba Dhoruba,
hmm,
this is truly an honor because we know Dr. Joy James is an unparalleled intellectual, academic, scholar, but also a true movement trainer and an activist. Whether people want to acknowledge that or not, Dr. Joy James is not an academic who has decided, I just want to bury my head in the book, I just want to write the books. But Dr. Joy James has definitely been in the trenches with us. And that is something that we don't see a lot. So many times, academia is used to water down activists and organizers, to take them away from movement, to get them out of the cipher of the people doing the work. And we cannot say enough about the contribution of Baba Dhoruba Bin Wahad and all that he means to movement, but also all that he's been able to inspire. It is really, really my honor to be here. And I'm so glad you called me to help with the interview today.
no
Yeah,
doubt, no
this
doubt.
is great. And it's so great to see Reverend Keyanna and Kalonji again and Dhoruba. And just to weave it in together, I mean, I first met Dhoruba when he came to the university, UMass Amherst. That was early 1990s, right? After being falsely incarcerated and speaking to the students, speaking to organizers and faculty. It was one of those rare times where the university made sense of being hospitable to truth telling. And that's not always the norm in different sectors, but it was really, for me, and as it is today, always learning from community activists, radicals, and revolutionaries. That is the best learning, the best education anyone can receive.
No doubt, no doubt. And the Ruben man, they got. I'm gonna call you Baba since Reverend Keyanna came with the Baba. So she reminded you because the Ruben think he like 32, 35, or 26. You know what I mean? So Keyanna said, "Oh Baba Dhoruba." So I'm gonna go ahead and call you Baba Dhoruba today because that's what they named you on the block. They coming with some strong introductions and juice and all that. And I want to say. Um, I am just as honored, uh, Reverend Keyanna, to be on with the three of you. And of course, I've worked with all of you in different capacities. And I'm thinking, Joy and Dhoruba, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first time the three of us are on together?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Correct. Mhm.
okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay. And we've been trying to do that for a minute. I think we had plans on coming together several different times, and that hadn't gelled out. So this is a very monumental moment for all of us on all levels. internationally, nationally, and locally. So for folks who are checking this out, you're in for a real treat. Dr. Joy James said she refused to show her face today because it's going to be
Excuse me?
too much
Excuse me?
blackness on here today.
Okay, that might be a distortion, some counterinsurgency, but okay. And but what is really great in terms of being able to work with all three of you and to see you is the new book that's out. Reba's new book.
Right on, right on. So, I mean, since you jump started it, and I mean, you've been here for this particular project before it even started. So, to get it started, let's talk about Revolution in These Times and give us the backstory. Since, like I said, you know just as much as me about the book as anyone else on the screen.
So is that for me or Dhoruba?
No, no,
Baba?
for you, for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, anybody who's been conscious about revolutionary struggle and about ethics, who's made the effort to learn about our struggles would know who Dhoruba Bin Wahad is, right? And one of the things that I learned from listening to Black Power media and other media and reading over the decades, right, was that Dhoruba has an archive of analyses, of critiques, of historical record that often, can be buried. I think, what is it? Is it Princeton that has his papers now? But in terms of the public discourse and speaking, I remember going to Harlem, seeing Dhoruba at December 12th meetings. Dhoruba was somebody I always wanted to listen to. And then when I noted that Black Power Media was doing multiple interviews, then a bunch of us started talking about we should preserve these interviews, transcribe them, and then, fast forward 2 years, here we are with Revolution in These Times, which is a striking book. It's going to probably be in multiple languages, but right now kicking off in this colonial language, English. It's coming out this month or next week, right?
Yep. Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. 7 chapters. Dhoruba deals with gender, race, class, colonialism, repression, revolutionary. I mean, Dhoruba is like a 360 wrap
Mhm,
and
mhm.
totally unique. Doesn't repeat what, the narrative that's popular or that builds like icons that come with the brand. But the honesty is what we definitely are desperately in need of these times. So I'm really happy that this text is out.
No doubt, no doubt. And again, thank you, Joy, because again, it was it took 2 years and two publishers for this thing to end up where it is, and we're absolutely grateful. And also, Dr. Joy James did the foreword to this book as well, so that's another treat. But I want to start off, and thank you for that, Joy. Dhoruba, so for you, revolution in these times, why would you say it's necessary?
Well, first of all, I want big up to you, Kalonji, because you've always, through thick and thin, tried to struggle, try to be there, try to bring to the forefront the issue of political repression, especially our political prisoners, and um, and also the struggles that we went through in the '60s and the late '70s. Because one of the things that I think everybody here recognizes is that we have a inability or incapacity to really delve into or relate to our radical traditions. And the enemy knows that if you cannot pass on your traditions of resistance and struggle from one generation to the next, you will never succeed. They will always be able to trump you. They will always be able to outmaneuver you. And so sadly, we had to witness the reinvention of failure around issues that we've already won. And so you always have been, since I've met you, Kalanji, you have always been apologetic voice, unapologetic personality for the truth, for the radical tradition, and as for Joy, you know, the only thing I could say about Joy, man, is that the sister has courage. She has the courage of a revolutionary and the intellect and the ability to dissect situations of an academic and a scientist. And I really feel you don't know how much appreciative I am of the fact that you guys collaborated to do this along with other folks, and and I'm sad to say that the writings that I have, the compilation of writings that I have sitting around and laying around, wasn't made available to you guys before while were doing this. So that means there's a chapter 2, there's an addendum to this that's coming, and it's already basically laid out. It just needs to be edited. So I just want to give a shout out to the both of y'all, man. I really appreciate your energy. I really appreciate Joy's courage, man, as an academic. Many academics don't have the type of courage this woman has. And I don't know, but some academics be faking in the game, and they be, and they pose as activists, but they're really. I don't want to be too hard. I was going to say they're pimping our radical history, but
They are. They are.
well,
Say
see
it.
that, you see there, you see there go. See,
That's,
Do it
that's
like
what the pastor
Dr.
said.
Joy does. She tells
I,
you
I,
like it TI is.
yes, she does, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to know her. I'm grateful to be in the same space with her, and so I just wanted to say that. And as for the sister Keyanna, Reverend Keyanna Jones Moore, I've heard a lot about this sister, and she's of the tradition of liberation theology. She talks about liberation theology. From what I've seen and what I have heard, she's unapologetic, and I think that's very important for our people right now in this era. I don't know who it was. Maybe Joy could tell us, but I think it might have been, what's that guy, Hemingway, who said these are the best of times and these are the worst of times, or something like that.
It
Well,
was
these are,
Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities.
aha, okay, Dickens.
Thank you,
Okay.
Reverend.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate that. That they and these are the worst of times and the best of times. We are in a historical moment. Personally, I don't think I'm gonna make it through this one. I've seen a lot, and I've never seen nothing like this. And but we have the great fortune of having a babbling idiot as the head of empire, and he's helping to erode and destroy an already decrepit and racist and reactionary black power, white power construct. So he should go at it. Deconstruct the FBI. Destroy the Justice Department. Run everybody out in the system that had a monocule of morality and a monocule of shame. I just hope he does a good job. But having said that, for us, for the Kalonji Changas, for the Joy Jameses, for the Reverend Kenyatta Jones, these are the best of times, because now our true warriors, our true academics, our true activists could come to the forefront and provide the type of leadership and the type of analysis that our people need right now. At this point, we have a comprador class that has been exposed to be totally incompetent, totally unprincipled on the payroll of APAC and police unions. So these decrepit Negroes, the Meeks and the Jeffries and what's that Negro from Jersey?
Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory Booker, that guy. So now they've all been basically exposed to be impotent, to be unable to excuse me one second, unable to deliver to black people and to poor people and to working people at least a monocule of progress, at least a small smidgen of reform that could alleviate people's struggles and people's misery and people's lives. So I'm just want to say that that's what Revolution, this book that Kalonji and Joy put together and helped put together. That's what this is about. And I know that there's differences in the ranks of our community, in the ranks of revolutionaries, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing too, because it's that dynamic. It's the subjective factor that is the dynamic factor in revolution and in struggle and in war. And so I just hope and pray that before the I guess it's the trans lady sings before the trans lady sings that we would have developed and created a um, a, a working class, a multiracial united front, a radical united front that should have as its mission its own self-destruction and the morphing into a black political party, a third political party in this country. I think that if we could create that, we would have did a great thing in these terrible times. There's no, I have no remorse for calling people out. I feel in a lot of ways that I should have done this earlier. I should have been more vocal. I should have been more uncompromising. And because it's sad to watch our people being murdered, it's sad to watch a whole generation of black people and students and workers witness a genocide in real time. And I feel that I failed in a lot of respects in that respect, that I was not vocal enough, I was not accessible enough, and to make a more lasting contribution. So I just want to say to all of y'all, I appreciate being here, and I appreciate Kalonji bearing with me, because I've been very difficult over the last few days, because I'm preoccupied with medical, with tactical things and strategic stuff in order to get back to Africa. I just want to get out of here before the door slams shut and get back to Africa and begin doing the type of work from that hemisphere. So I just want to say that I thank all of you for being who you are and being in my life at this particular time in the winter of my life. It's gratifying to know that the struggle will continue.
And it will, Dhoruba, because you have now given us a roadmap. One of the things that I notice about so many people who call themselves revolutionary is that when they meet you, the first thing they want to start talking to you about is Marx or Lenin or Mao. But I want to talk about Dhoruba. And I'm so glad that we have revolution in these times that is coming from your own personal account, from someone who has lived, someone who has been through, is still going through, someone who has taught, who has trained, and is still helping us navigate our way as the revolutionaries of these times. We don't have a lot of political prisoners who have made it home, who we're able to sit at their feet and glean from. And the ones that we have, we are so thankful for. We can't ever express how much it means to have a Dhoruba Bin Wahad who's now left us with something, with true, real, accurate reflections, with warnings, with lessons for us to organize in a revolutionary way. Because there are people out here calling themselves revolutionary, but they're running around throwing lawsuits back and forth, operating within a system that they claim not to even trust or acknowledge. We have people out here calling themselves revolutionary, and all they want to do is get on a stage and perform. But I think I heard it said best in the last few days after the Super Bowl that everybody wants to be Nina Simone, but don't nobody want to sing Mississippi Goddamn. So when we think about what it is that we're doing, how it is that we're doing it, we are the ones who have the privilege of being able to learn from you. We are the ones even though you feel like you didn't do it soon enough, God's timing is perfect and things happen the way they are supposed to, because this is the time that we need to know what revolution should look like in these times. But those of us who are truly revolutionary also need to know what to look out for in these times. Because if people believe that COINTELPRO isn't real, or that was not a true operation, we can see from revolutionary in times the things not only that you endured yourself, but what we see is that government programs like COINTELPRO just change into something that is of another name. They never go away. It still happens. And when you're out here doing the work, you have to be careful in the way that you move, in who you bring around, in what you do, where you show up at, all of these things that we need to know. But I don't think that we learn those things from Marx, from Mao, from Lenin, but we can certainly learn them from a Dhoruba Bin Wahad.
And Dhoruba, I ain't even pay her to say that.
I know. Well, she's a preacher, man.
Right on. I want to.
She's gonna pass the collection plate in a minute.
Hold up.
We don't even take up offering.
Before she passed the collection plate, I'm gonna go to Minister Joy James, because I think that she might have something to add on in the first revolutionary church of Black Power.
Yes.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's revolutionary love, right? It's the gospels that come out of our experiences, mass death in the waters, shipped over for enslavement. Indigenous, they tried it on them first, genocide, and it's like, well, let's try the African. I mean, this is our inheritance, as much as our inheritance from the revolutionaries, such as Dhoruba, right? And so it's painful, but it's beautiful at the same time. We have not been defeated. And so when you read revolution in these times, and when you just read whatever and everything you want, listen to Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, saying strange truth. There's so many ways to lose a job and lose a life. But people still went forward. And Dhoruba, after 19 years, right? I mean, before you were captured, while you were captured, after you were released, there are always contributions. I think sometimes, you could call me whatever. I am aligned with the revolutionaries. I didn't make the kind of sacrifices I've seen, but I think that there are ways in which the most radical people can be very harsh on themselves. Like we didn't deliver but like Reverend Keyanna said, the deity and the spirit determines the time and the place, but the gift never disappeared. So our agency, our commitment to freedom, that's that form of courage. I've seen it in Dhoruba. I've seen it in Reverend Keyanna. I've seen it in Kalonji. And I've seen it with that whole roster of political prisoners that we have and the people who've been disappeared away from us. So I'm wondering how, this is just my question, as a kid who read books and probably talked to books more than they talk to people, how do you see attacks as a form of life, if that makes sense? Like we're here, on as many years as, Dee gives us, and then we transition, but we're still here in spirit. How do you think this book stays alive over decades? Because the fascism is here, and it's in weird ways too. I mean, it would be funny if people weren't, having their lives destroyed or disappeared. But what do you see as a function of the book? It's a gift, but maybe we could unpack that gift and remind people, to find it, to locate it, to take a look at it, and to engage it.
Well, if I may, George, you always put these profound questions that have a moral and spiritual consequence to them. I strongly believe, ever since I took my Shahada 40 years ago or something, that for everything on the material plane that happens, there's a spiritual and and a moral consequence and symbolism and reflection. I think the book, although it's very limited, I think one of the things I wanted that I expressed to Kalonji, and I didn't have the opportunity to express it to you too much, Joy, but it's that um, we have a legacy of struggle that goes all the way back to the first sister and the first brother that screamed in anguish that was taken through the door of no return in West Africa and brought here in chains. And all those nights and all those days that our ancestors were whipped and beaten and worked these plantations and had their babies snatched from them. All these years they prayed for people like us. I like to look at it that they prayed for me. They said one day I would come along and I won't quit. I won't stop. Hmm? And I always tell Kalonji when we're confronted with something that seems totally almost suicidal, I remind them nobody gets out of this life alive. And it's what we leave behind us that really matters. It's what we leave with the other generation that really matters. So when our ancestors in the bullwhip days said, "Hurry, sundown, see what tomorrow bring," they were hoping for us. They were praying for us. That one day we will hold our enemies, our people's oppressors, these enemies of the sun, we will hold them accountable. We will hold them accountable, as Malcolm said, by any means necessary. And so I take that to mean, ever since I joined the Black Panther Party, that true democracy requires understanding and a mutual humanity between people who have conflicts. We have to recognize each other's humanity. But white supremacy, that artificial construct, does not recognize our humanity, does not see us as human beings. So I realized long ago when we first went underground that if there's going to be democracy, if there's going to be any type of democratic distribution, any type of democratic dispensation, there has to be an equal distribution of the pain. And our enemy has to understand and appreciate our humanity. They have to cry like us. They have to moan like us. They have to say, when is this going to stop? What can we do to change this? And they won't do that until you start making them understand that you're a human being and you bleed like us. You suffer like us. We love our children just like you love your children. And we will not let you kill us and not hold you to account. And I think that that's always been my mission. I have not always stayed true to it. I've deviated for personal reasons. I doubted myself sometimes that I could achieve anything in my life that was meaningful. But then again, I read Amilcar Cabral. I look at Sinwar of Hamas. I look at our freedom fighters in the past, who we remember today because of what they did, what they stood for. And so I pick myself up and I try to go at it again. I don't claim to have all the answers to anything, but I do know one thing, that we have to resist, and we have to resist in an uncompromising and in a steadfast manner, that we will win in the final analysis. Many of my comrades who passed, they left me here to see this. And I say sometimes, say, cool, man, blood, why y'all leave me like this? Because the worst thing a revolutionary could see is the defeat of his revolution. That's like a living death. That's like a commentary on his very existence or her very existence. That you failed your people, that you failed yourself, that you failed your mama, who brought you here. And sometimes that overwhelms me. That fear, that that resentment, that fear, that anxiety, that these enemies of the sun will destroy this world before they will relinquish an iota of humanity towards those people that they've oppressed and abused and exploited, that they'll destroy this planet before they let go. That's a depressing thought. That it will all be in vain, because none of us will be here. Probably the only survivors will be a cockroach. They seem to get through everything. But I know that, just like my ancestors say, these are the best of times and these are the worst of times. That's what Dickens or whoever it was said. But my ancestors said, hurry sundown, see what tomorrow brings. And that's what I'm saying now. In the age of the orange man and white supremacy and the collapsing of the American empire, hurry this along, hurry sundown, see what tomorrow brings.
That's right. That's right.
No doubt. I'm sitting here, and I appreciate what you're saying, D. I think that there are people that are watching this broadcast, and there are people that won't yet understand what it is you're saying. And there's some people that might not ever understand. And then there are folks who understand clearly what you're saying because, as you said, we doubt ourselves because we understand that, as Imam Jamil Alameen would say, this is what comes with war.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Our ancestor, comrade Bilal Sunni Ali, he sang about war is never easy. It brings on heartache. And I think about the fact that last year alone, 4 of our comrades that I can remember transitioned. There was Sekou, Jazz Hayden, Masai, and towards the twilight of 2024 was Bilal Sunni Ali. I think about this book. You mentioned Sekou in Blood, chapter 7 of this book. I recall the interview we did, and I remember one of the last things that Blood said in that interview. He said, I'm trying to be here, I'm trying to live. That was, I believe, in May of 2023 or 2022. And the next year, May of 2024, a year and I believe 5 days later, he made his transition. And Sekou made his transition. And these are brothers that I looked up to all of y'all before I ever knew you. You understand? So to me, it was like, to Keyanna's point, it is an honor for me to even share a word on a page in regards to the work that you all have done. And I need folks to understand it, because some people are looking at, and they're looking at, oh, they wrote a book. It's not a book. You understand what I'm saying? This is legacy. This is reality. So this is, to a great extent, just to see it comes out is a beautiful thing, just to see it coming out. But I want to say, definitely salute to our ancestor comrades. You just said something. You said sometimes you ask, why y'all leave me here to witness this? I'm gonna have Keyanna and Dr. James read excerpts from the book, but while they look for that, whatever excerpts that I'm gonna ask them to read, if they're choosing, I want to ask you to say some words about these comrades, because here it is, these are folks that you knew way before I even knew they existed. You all ran together, but to have struggled, to have organized, struggled, uh, went to prison, came out, and continued to work. What can you say about your comrades in comparison to what we're seeing right now in 2024? This neo militant class of individuals who believe that a tweet or a Facebook post or a YouTube platform is revolution. And I'm saying that, and I'm not throwing those stones or whatever, but I've seen our comrades and our elders and our OGs suffer. I've seen OG Shaka thinning, you know what I'm saying, who I introduced you to when we were in Oakland, from the Black Guerrilla family and the Black August Organizing Committee. Another one of my OGs transition. We've seen Fulani Sunni Ali transition. We attended services for Chokwe Lumumba. We've seen so many of these other brothers and sisters just come and go. What can you say to the freedom fighters that you struggled and worked with? What would you say if they could hear you now? What would you say on their behalf?
Well, I guess all I could say, man, is that I'm not going to disappoint them. There's a passage in the Quran that talks about time, how immutable time is. It's called Asr. It says, by the token of time, verily, humanity is at loss, except those who are righteous and believe in Allah and do what's right. I'm going to try to do what's right. Not what's acceptable, not what makes me feel good, but what's right. I tried to raise my sons. I got 5 boys. One of them I never speak to. But all 5 of them are my boys. And the 2 that I raised, because I was out of prison long enough to raise them. The other 3 were born while I was in prison. But these 2 were born when I came out. And I drummed into them to this very day, every day. Never turn your back on those who brought you here. Never turn your back on those who looked out for you and had your back when nobody else did. Never turn your back on them, no matter how great you are or how great you think you are. Never turn your back on them. So when I look at Sunyata, or when I look at Sekou, I say, live like them, be like them, and don't turn your back on their legacy that they gave you when nobody else gave you anything, when nobody else would fight for you, when nobody else would pick up that gun and kill your enemy for you. Don't forget them. When you speak our name and we're not here, when we say Sundiata, when we say Sekou, they live again. They're alive. They're alive as we speak because we never turned our back on them and forgot them. So I just want to say I don't mean to get so emotional.
So good, man.
But I just had a biopsy. I thought I had to stay here for 6 weeks in order to deal with this treatment for an infection that they thought might have been cancerous. And it came back negative. And at first I was happy. And then I realized that by the grace of Allah, I'm not finished yet. So the book that you guys did, we got some more coming. We got some service that we have to do on these crackers.
That's
they
right.
will understand that we are the last people on this planet they want to fuck with.
That's right.
Doubt
Right
it.
on, Baba. Right on. And I tell you, I feel that so much, and I feel it so much in my spirit, and that's why I am who I am. Because I got a Dhoruba Bin Wahad who I cannot let down. I got political prisoners that I just learned about some of them only in the past few years. But these are people who made a sacrifice so I can do what I do. So that's why it's no question I got to stay sucker free. I can't get out here rolling with people who are internet activists. I can't get out here talking about something that I don't know anything about as if I've been in the fight for forever and then want somebody to give me a pat on the back. And that is why I stay unapologetic. Because there was a person named Fannie Lou Hamer who was
Mhm.
sick and tired of being sick and tired,
That's right.
but knew that there had to be some action to go with those words. Because I got a Joy James who's not afraid to write the truth, not worried about how many books are going to sell, but more concerned with people understanding the truth of the times. Because I got a Kalonji Changa who has all the connections in the world, but refuses to deal with those who are inauthentic. And that's what makes us need you, Dhoruba. We need Dr. Joy. We need Kalonji. We need people who are true freedom fighters who are in the work for real. Because rarely are you going to hear someone that can expound on the plight of a Black woman, particularly in activism, the way Dr. Joy will. You're not going to hear people tell the truth the same way that Kalonji will. You are not going to have people who get a bunch of notoriety like really quickly. And now all of a sudden the cameras are clamoring and everybody's saying their name. Very few people are going to stay true to the original mission because they get carried away by the fame. They love the cameras, they love the accolades, but do they love the work? Because this work is what hits you right here. That makes you say, in the same words that you just said about everybody else, for me, because you know I'm Baptist, a charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, who gave his son my soul to save and fit it for the sky. I got a charge that I've been given, and I have to carry this charge with honor. And if I don't operate from a place of authenticity, then I do your name dishonor. And that's the last thing that I would ever want to do. We have to be real about how it is that we're teaching, how we're training, even how we're preaching. That's why revolution in these times just came right on time. Because I'm telling you, this book is going to be the one that will save somebody's soul. Because somebody is out here faking, but they're going to get on the good foot once they read Revolution in these times.
No doubt. I want to say, you're watching RSTV. This is Black Power Media. I just saw someone in the chat saying that, you know, the notifications aren't coming through. They're not supposed to come through because of the fact that we are talking about revolution. We're talking about Pan-Africanism, and we know that the only thing that will defeat um, white hegemony, white supremacy, white domination, imperialism, colonialism, Zionism is Pan-Africanism, true Pan-Africanism, revolutionary Pan-Africanism. That's the only thing that's going to defeat it. It's not going to be any other isms or schisms. So let's get that clear. I want to we want to talk to Dr. Joy James because we have another project we're going to speak on. But before that, I want Keyanna and or Dr. Joy to read an excerpt from the book Revolution in These Times. If you for folks that don't know, you can order the book because people have been asking. You can order the book, which drops on this Tuesday, February 18th. This Tuesday, February 18th, is a very monumental day. First and foremost, my executive producer was born that day, my mother. So definitely, on her birthday, it is a honor, pleasure, and a privilege to drop this book. It was not planned like that. But also, speaking of political prisoners, one of the current longest held political prisoners who has served time for 49 years. He was a member of AIM. Leonard Peltier will be walking out, inshallah, February 18th, this Tuesday as well, after serving 49 years. February 6th made his 49th year in prison. But so if you all are interested, not if you're interested, go order the book. It's at commonnotion.org. Commonnotions.org is the publisher. And, make sure you get that book so you can have it in your library ASAP. Keyanna, if you don't mind reading the excerpt, and then we'll ask Dr. James to read one and we'll move on.
I'm in the chapter that is entitled, "You Cannot Reform the Police in a Police State." And this is something that I'm very passionate about. So I was excited when I saw that this has an entire chapter dedicated to it.
What chapter is that, by the way?
You cannot reform the police in a police state. And this is about anti-fascist organizing and community control of police. The chapter starts with the quote, "Black power means the ability to exert a political consequence on the white supremacist construct that is America." The chapter starts with Kalonji asking, "For the past decade or so, you've been talking about decentralizing police, community control of public safety, a class action lawsuit against the police, and decertifying these unions." Kalonji goes on to say, "Why do you feel it hasn't taken hold? And what are the main issues right now that folks are dealing with, particularly here in Atlanta with the whole Cop City issue?" And Dhoruba's answer is, historically, when the Black Panther Party called for a united front against fascism in 1969, we used the word fascism in the united front. The reason why we use the word fascism is because we understood at that particular time, in 1969 to 1971, the pushback against the so-called civil rights movement in the South that had achieved voting rights and desegregated schools was at its core white supremacist, imperialist, and genocidal at home and abroad. You had the Vietnam War and Black soldiers coming home who felt like Geronimo Pratt, that they had to take a stand and fight for something other than Uncle Sam. The right wing, the so-called military-industrial complex, was on its back foot because of the embarrassment of the Vietnam War and the popular resistance to it. The right wing, the so-called political elite, hadn't consolidated their power. They were on their back foot in 1969 and 1970, and then throughout the 70s. When the Black Panther Party called for a unified front, it was to consolidate the peace movement, the anti-war movement, and the Rainbow Coalition with other movements in this country. You've got to remember, at that time, the Republican Party didn't have its so-called radical wing that evolved after this period, the so-called Tea Party. All of these were reactions to the gains of working people. So when we call for this united front, it was at the right time, in the right moment, to delay this consolidation of white supremacy's new political paradigm and manipulation. Today, through the right, it's consolidated, and it's been strengthened by post-9/11 laws that permit law enforcement to do things that would have been declared illegal by the Church Committee when it was investigating COINTELPRO and excess of the U.S. intelligence and police agencies, especially the FBI. We dropped the ball in that sense because the United Front, when we organized it, we had in mind a strategic vision that all of those organizations and individuals that came from all over the country will go back to their individual cities and set up local national committees to combat fascism chapters. In these chapters, they would begin to organize and mobilize people to combat police terrorism and the occupation in our community and put decentralization of police and community control of law enforcement on the ballot. In New York, that's what we did. In other areas, that's what we did. When a movement is encapsulated like it was a few years ago in the wake of George Floyd and the other killings, then the types of slogans and ideas that came out of the encapsulation are designed to make sure that we stay where we're at so that it doesn't work. And this is the part that I found particularly poignant. That's why you had defund the police, the totally asinine, ridiculous idea and notion. Why would you say that and put it out as a slogan? You've got to understand, if we had a genuine movement that had a strategic vision, every slogan we'd use is a slogan designed to express the will of the people and educate the people. That's why we talked about power to the people. And I'll stop there because that in itself talks a lot about the failure of the movement to defund the police and why it wasn't the best thing to put out there. And especially when you didn't say what you mean or mean what you said. How many times have we heard people, when they say defund the police, they have to go back and explain, oh, we don't mean defund the police as in take all the money away. We mean put the resources toward community and other areas that police shouldn't get that much money. Well, that's stupid. Because if you want to defund the police, you should be able to say defund the police. You got to mean what you say and say what you mean. But you also have to understand that one united front under an anti-fascist umbrella should be a front that uplifts the people at all times, because what we found ourselves doing is chasing our tails, giving too much attention to the very thing that we want to dismantle. We're giving them too much attention when we say defund the police. Now we got to talk about them even more. Now we got to go back and, let everybody know that this isn't really what we mean. Well, why are we even running around saying things that we don't mean in the first place? And I'm really grateful that there is a chapter that is dedicated to helping people understand what community control of law enforcement is in theory and what it should look like in practice, and also helping us understand some of the places where we have misstepped and that have caused us to simply be standing still when it comes to this particular issue.
No doubt. Definitely appreciate that, Reverend Keyanna. We're going to take it, have Dr. Joy read an excerpt, and we will. We also want to talk about Beyond Cop Cities, but what we'll do is we'll have Dr. Joy read an excerpt, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Before I can get to the excerpt, I have to lean into Reverend Keyanna. I mean, I'm going to talk about chapter 3 briefly, where Dhoruba Baba talks about Assata Shakur and Angela Davis, right? But Keyanna opened the door by bringing in Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. And so when we think about, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, the way that Dhoruba thinks and writes around gender, it doesn't have a rigidity in it. And also there's a clarity, as you would be saying, like we have this language, we defunded the police, or we really didn't mean defund, like defund men. There's this confusion, like word babble, Tower of Babel, that has an impact on our movements. But Miss Ella Baker, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, they were always incredibly clear. That's part of our legacy, right? And so even with Miss Hamer at the Mississippi Freedom Democratic, I don't even have all the words running smoothly in my mouth, party, right, was going to contest the Democratic Party, she also had the courage to stand up and to talk back in a very severe way to Reverend Martin Luther King, who was going to cave to the Johnson administration. And when Dhoruba writes about Assata and others, he writes about women, men, non-binary as revolutionaries. And it's the role of the Black woman as a revolutionary, for me, that there's a lot of confusion around it. And so I'm going to start reading on page 60, just some of the clarity in a short paragraph that he puts out. Basically, quoting Dhoruba, Assata became a revolutionary before she became a Black feminist. We have a lot of Black feminists now who see their support for Assata Shakur primarily as a persecuted woman by this big, bad bully of the United States government, ignoring the fact that Assata is being oppressed and repressed as a revolutionary first and foremost. It is as a revolutionary Pan African woman that she stands for the liberation and emancipation of women and Black women in particular. Assata was one of the better shooters in the Black Panther Party. Women tend to be better shooters than men. Don't ask me why, but they do. Once they get the training, there's something that kicks in. This type of training that we were able to give to Assata happened or added to her compassionate feeling for saving lives, for being involved on that level. I hope you follow that, what I'm saying. We were at war and the enemy was trying to kill us. So the end of the quotation. What I'm trying to put on the table, you know what I mean, not as clearly or as eloquently as Dhoruba did, is that we can be in this advocacy movements for Black women, Black power, Black feminism. Obviously, some of us didn't vote for a VP to, you know, pursue another kind of genocide, despite the hell we've inherited now. If we understand that we have to unpack the meaning of being a revolutionary, that gender, as important as it might be, class, you know, Reverend Keyanna opened by saying there's Marx, there's Mao, there's Lenin, we can read that, but it doesn't completely comprehend the struggles that we're in. We have to understand what it means to be a Black revolutionary. And Assata was the embodiment, not because, you know, she was a saint, none of us are saints, but the way in which she loved and moved through that love was absolutely stunning. And I want to add one more paragraph from Dhoruba before I stop. Quote, I just want to say that when you think of Assata and you think of what happened in that New Jersey Turnpike, don't think in terms of her being a victim. She was a revolutionary. A revolutionary is never a victim. Victims are people who don't make conscious decisions, who are victimized by a system and taken advantage of. A revolutionary is one who takes on the challenges of power, takes on the challenges of disempowerment, and tries to change the system. The system then deals out the injustice and the repression that is supposed to deal out to those who oppose it. She's no victim. There's no Scottsboro boys mentality here. None of those political prisoners in jail are in jail by coincidence. They're in jail by choice. I just wanted to put that out there as someone or about who is Assata and what she really stands for. So, as a Black woman, as a Black feminist who has a criticism of Black feminism, of course, I think to struggle with our consciousness as revolutionary people or proto-revolutionary people, whatever you want to call us, I think that clears up the mess of the babble of just like the rhetorical performative of I'm the revolutionary, I'm going to deliver a speech or a text and tell you X, Y, and Z. I think if you see what we do, then you understand who we are, and that becomes the blessing. And the blessing is to embrace revolutionary struggle despite our fears. And Dhoruba has consistently articulated that. And in some ways, I'm for whatever reasons, pain is like high on the charts for a lot of reasons. The ability to have speech that is tied to the prophet or it is tied to prophecy, that becomes salve, that becomes a medicine in itself. And what Assata has left as a legacy, what Dhoruba has left, what, you know, Peltier, Kamal Siddiqui, Sekou, there's a whole long list of gift givers. That is what will keep us steady.
No doubt, no doubt. Definitely appreciate. I'm over here like a fan of the three of you, and I don't like nobody. So you know what I'm saying. So that's a that that's a good thing. I don't even like me sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I'm like the judge back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give myself 20 years just to get this thing started. But anyway, listen, I wanna definitely thank you all for speaking on this book. Again, folks, make sure you order this book. This is Free 'em All Fridays, as Keyanna mentioned. Today, this is Black Power Media. You can check us out, blackpowermedia.org. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have a whole lot of good stuff coming. This is the website here to order Revolution in These Times. I want to shift the conversation a little bit. And I want to start off by, we have, this is a double hitter today, double header. Don't think we're going to have Dhoruba here and Joy James and not, hit both sides of the equation. I don't want to be accused of anything. I'm always often accused of so much and so many things these days. And I'm not going to repeat some of the things Dhoruba said when he's trying to slam me, but we're not going to go there today. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit. Reverend Keyanna Jones Moore, for folks who aren't familiar with her, she is one of the main activists around the whole Cop City, anti-Cop City or Stop Cop City program. And one of the unique things about her is, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, she is the only activist around Cop City who actually grew up in a particular neighborhood where they're building quote unquote Cop City. So that is something very important. So sometimes folks talk about if they got skin in the game. She got all the skin up in the game. You know what I mean? She's right up in the mix of it. I want to ask Reverend Keyanna, first I want to show you all the book site real quick because I was reminded that I didn't do that. This is Revolution in These Times, Black Panther Party veteran Dhoruba Bin Wahad on anti-fascism, Black liberation and the culture of resistance. Again, you can go to the site, which is commonnotions.org. And here's a little bit about it. I'm going to just scroll fast because you all know that you can go to the site itself. But anyway, commonnotions.org. Make sure you get the book. Reverend Keyanna, and I know she told me not to call her Reverend and everything, but I don't listen too well. So, every now and then, I do what I want to do. Tell us, before we get into talking about this next book, Beyond Cop Cities, which is authored by Dr. Joy James, tell us a little bit of tell us about Cop Cities. What is Cop Cities and how you got involved in that particular fight?
Yeah, Cop City is a multi-million-dollar militarized police training facility. Basically, it is a facility where police will train to kill us. They have cited in their original plans for Cop City that the purpose is for training on quote unquote urban warfare. We know that those who are less enlightened equate the word urban with black, and that means that you want to do warfare on black bodies. And Cop City in Atlanta, in particular, was designed originally with a mock city for that urban warfare training, with a Black Hawk helicopter landing pad, a firing range, and with so-called community rooms for the community to use. But I can't imagine who would want to go to a community room that is located on the site of an urban warfare training facility. This particular Cop City required the destruction of 381 acres of forest land, the largest urban forest in the southeastern United States. The South River Forest is what has been destroyed in order to build Cop City, which means also that there has been mass interference and pollution of a vital watershed, the South River watershed, which is the headwater of the Altamaha, which is the largest body of water in the state of Georgia. And the South River itself is the most polluted body of water in the United States. And the significance of this, aside from the fact that these officers are building a fake city just to murder us and practice genocide, is that all of this is happening right in the heart of East Atlanta, in a historically Black neighborhood where I grew up that is not yet quite heavily gentrified. And this particular piece of land, this tract of land that was the Weelaunee Forest, as some people call it, the South River Forest, this tract of land has been historically used for the oppression of Black bodies. Back in the 1800s, when this particular land on Turtle Island was inhabited by Muskogee Creek people, they were sent off on the Trail of Tears from that very tract of land to make way for a slave plantation. Years later, that same slave plantation would become the site of the Atlanta prison farm. Still a plantation in many ways, but a part of the prison industrial complex that was supposedly there for the benefit of the state of Georgia, where Black bodies again were laboring and slave laboring, really, in order to produce for the state of Georgia and its Department of Agriculture. Years after that, the city of Atlanta would again commandeer this land for police training. And there is a firing range that's still there from the original training facility that has been in operation, that has never stopped operating even after that particular training facility closed down. The firing range was still there and still open. And that firing range is the source of quite a bit of discomfort in the neighborhood. But Cop City, this one in Atlanta, is now to the point where it is pretty much finished, almost ready to completely open. And what was said by former President Biden was that Cop City in Atlanta is the model for the United States. And since that statement was made, there have been more than 60 cop cities proposed in different parts of the United States. So we see Baltimore, we see Newark, New Jersey, we see California, we see Washington State, even we see Seattle, we see North Carolina, we see all these states in the country, Tennessee, as a matter of fact, all of these states that are now popping up with their proposals for their cop cities, all because this country has a history of importing and exporting violence. And it has a lot to do with international law exchange programs that send our local police officers to the state of Israel to train with the Israeli occupation forces. And they bring those same tactics back here to our local cities and use them against us in their genocide here in this country.
Appreciate that layout for folks who didn't know what Cop Cities was. You know now. She laid it out like no one else could have, because again, when you're from there, I know folks in Atlanta, and I know you from Atlanta. Folks in Atlanta say, I ain't come here, I'm from here. They'll remind you quickly, just in case you get too comfortable. Dr. Joy James, you and I, we wrote a series of writings. We partnered on some works with Inquest from Harvard Law, Inquest magazine, and a few other different publications. I forget right now out the top of my head, which is weird, but and you came up with another idea. You notice Dr. James has a lot of ideas around this piece, but you put them into action. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna point that part out. But you had an idea for Beyond Cop Cities. So I'm gonna ask you to talk about how about Beyond Cop Cities came about and what Beyond Cop Cities is. And I know that the title is Beyond Cop Cities, Dismantling State and Corporate Funded Armies in Prison. Let's talk about Beyond Cop Cities.
Sure. One of the things I would add, hey, I don't know, can I say Reverend Keyanna, or are we bugging you with the title? I want to be respectful.
I always say that I was named Keyanna. I did not come out being called Reverend, and that shit really don't mean nothing, no way. So
you gotta call her Gangster Reverend.
Okay, so y'all can't call me Dr. Joy anymore. All right. Actually, what I was saying is that we quote Keyanna in the book, right? Beyond Cop Cities, because this is a sister on the ground This is somebody like family, intergenerational families, like literally could close their eyes and recite everything that is in the environment, including, as she noted, the violence that impacts our health, like through epigenetics. You're waking up to somebody shooting at 2 in the morning, like the threat, the potential threat, the intentional threat of the state, right? So when we were doing Beyond Cop Cities, again, for me, I like to teach, but I really like to learn. Was to approach people and to study phenomena and struggles and to do the best we can. So there, Reverend Keyanna, Reverend Matthew Johnson, there are another person, there are others. Um, this was kind of a one-off. This was a surprise. And I've had somebody say, or maybe this is about me self-analyzing. Sometimes what I do with grief and pain is I just write and edit. Like I have to do something, right? I mean, years ago it'd be, yoga or boxing bag or something. Like now it's just, right to your arm wants to detach from you and run away. But in the process of writing, it also can become therapeutic because you're learning, like you're like, no, I need to think about what this person just said. Or last month, Kalonji and Keyanna, you did a podcast on BPM on the Congo. And so when writing, listening to that, and actually there's going to be another surprise baby book coming out, right? And, transcribing that and just really understanding. And at the same time, Baba Dhoruba sends a link about the Congo earlier today, which I watched for about 30 minutes before we hop on. So I believe that we're always in conversation with each other. Like, even if it doesn't make it into print on page or doesn't make it into the bookstore or doesn't make it into an e-document or something like that, we're always in conversation about struggle, liberation, and love, right? So Beyond Cop Cities, it's a small pamphlet um, confronting counterinsurgency. Subtitle is, I believe, Cop Cities and Democracy's Terrors. Also has an interview with Keyanna, and also podcast transcribed from Black Power Media. So these are ways in which, at least for myself, people interpret for themselves. These are the ways through print and visuals. C. Fluxing, who is part of, um, I wanted to call it the ants movement. What is it called, Kaloji? You're more than ant. You are ants,
Oh,
but
Siafu.
yeah, thank you. And FTP. There's a way in which the visuals, you can see them behind Kalonji. The visuals set a tone, and we hope the writing matches those visuals so that it becomes like when you wrap yourself in a warm blanket when it's cold out, you remember that warmth exists and that we can generate it. So the radicalism that we've been talking about for the last hour or so, it can end up in text. Hopefully we can hand it off for other people. There's some longevity or memory. And in different ways, it's useful because almost all of the source information comes from the community that's active themselves. So in some ways, I see myself almost as a journalist collecting the stories of people who are engaged in the way that Kalonji's engaged, the way that Keyanna's engaged, the way that Dhoruba's engaged. And I think that journalists, it's not at the level of Ida B. Wells, but it's a memory tab that we have to remember the atrocities that we face, not just through personal trauma or historical whatever, but that we can break it down and analyze it and move against it.
Right on. No, that's powerful. So, again, for folks who are just tuning in, this is RSTV. We're on Black Power Media. Uh, just thought we remind you, uh, definitely, as they say in these YouTube streets, like, subscribe, follow, hit the bell if you want to, see and hear more, and also support the platform because the platform It don't run off thin air. And we would love to pay our journalists. We would love to pay folks like Reverend Keyanna, because she's already committed and dedicated. Imagine she got a check. Claude, have mercy. We might see him more often. Anyway, so
I don't
beyond
do money. Y'all know I don't do what I do for money.
we know you don't, but that
But
light bill, that internet bill.
what I do want to interject though is that the real value of Dr. Joy James is that she is intent on reminding us that we have to tell our story and we have to write our stories in real time, because if we don't, they will tell the lies that they want to tell about us and there will be no one to correct the record. But we want to make sure that we are telling our stories in real time so that people understand what it is that we're really going through. You know, there are people who have written commentary about Cop City, but there is not one person who has written that commentary that will tell you that they're only building cop cities in areas that are historically Black and that are not gentrified or redeveloped. That as they are building these cop cities, they are not bringing anything new to the neighborhood. They are not bringing a grocery store so that people can continue to eat. They're simply bringing police so that you can continue to be oppressed, because we know that over policing means that you are also oppressed and repressed, which means more arrests in your Black neighborhood. They're not saying that the areas where they're building cop cities have shopping centers that look the same as they did in 1980. They're not telling you the real historical context of why these cop cities end up where they are, because honestly, they have none to give you because they ain't from there. They don't really know nothing about there. And most of the times they are parroting talking points that they've learned somewhere else.
Wow, you heard it from Reverend Keyanna Moore, who is out in the neighborhood like Mr. Rogers' sister, and she ain't playing. Um, Real quick, Dr. James. So, you're talking beyond cop cities. I want to point out too that these books, that's why I like hanging with Dr. James, because of the fact that books just be coming out. Beyond Cop Cities was dropped 6 months ago. So we're averaging a book every 6 months right now. In fact, there's another book that'll be coming out in another 6 months, but it ain't gonna drop till we make sure you got both of these copies. Um, why is Beyond Cop Cities important, Dr. James? Because again, it's not titled Beyond Cop City, because as Keyanna mentioned, there's cop cities sprouting all over the place. But Beyond Cop Cities, dismantling state and corporate funded armies and prisons. What does that mean to what's happening now? And I want to ask Dhoruba as well, his thoughts on this whole cop city phenomenon.
Yeah, I'll say something briefly and then let Dhoruba take it out. Dismantling state and corporate funded armies and prisons is a subtitle, and part of what I was learning from listening to Keyanna and reading interviews that she was doing and the organizing in Atlanta was the understanding, as she already said, this was international. This is conquest. This has nothing to do about safety. And when foreign policies start merging with domestic policy, it's not like they just started doing. The United States has a long history of colonialism, imperialism, and genocide. So when they converge those policies, what they're training in other sites in terms of decimation of other populations is a training that they bring to the United States. And in fact, our very appearance centuries ago was, part of that training, that historical training. I would say that the state and corporate funded armies and prisons was our, attempt. And again, there are other people doing incredible work. Go look for that work, how corporations have invested in this. And whatever your feelings are about Elon Musk and others, the whole billionaire, trillionaire reign, this kind of feudalism, married to fascism, is the future or the present core of democracy. It was always in the DNA of democracy, but now it's just, they've just amplified it, right? So we're dealing with armies. We're not really dealing with police. We're dealing with mercenaries. We're not really dealing with police. So the whole notion of what police can do for you, I mean, if your house is, I would say that if your house was burning down, but then I think of Move 1985 when the fire department let the whole thing burn down, a whole neighborhood, and killed Move children and adults. To go beyond the language that we've inherited from a kind of liberal political discourse that often is popularized because it's liberal, this book is attempting to push into another zone. The zone's always been there. It's a revolutionary discourse. That's the nicest, shortest way I can say it. And in terms of the sequel to it, or what builds upon it, as I've said, what Dhoruba, what Keyanna, what Kalonji was sharing about Andrew Young's relationship to foreign policy in terms of Africa, in terms of the DRC, in terms of violation of all kinds of human rights. This is a soup that we're all swimming in. And this book was the beginning. Again, it was surprise. I didn't think we were even going to do it. We turned it up first as a pamphlet after listening to what people were saying and transcribing it. And then we found a way, to go into print. And the second one, which I believe is going to come out in Black August, tries to expand the analysis, but there's also a section which is very much like Dhoruba's gifts. What is the role of a revolutionary in the zone of crisis? And that, to our abilities, is what we're doing with these edited volumes, right? As I fade out on this, I don't think there's one answer for anything. I think people have their different levels of comfort in terms of struggling. But what we were trying to do with these booklets or books was to be honest about our reality and the hellfire. And I think the honesty is the best way to start in terms of, whether you want to inch towards revolutionary struggle, you want to run from it, the honesty about what the material conditions are, but also what our spiritual gifts are to fight those conditions. That would bring discourse that's clear and political organizing that's productive.
Right on. Definitely appreciate that. I want definitely thank you for that. And thank you for the vision, because I think it's important. Because to be quite honest with you, I'm just going to say it. I mean, the academy, the nonprofit gangsters, which is the new counterinsurgency, oftentimes they don't want to hear from a Dhoruba Bin Wahad until he's dead and gone. They don't want to hear from a Malcolm or from an Imam Jamil or whoever until they can control the narrative and control the story. But we know that it is because of folks like Dr. Joy James, who will assist us in getting in the forefront and kicking the door down to force these academics and these other folks who are these quote unquote gatekeepers, force them to not deal with what's Memorex, but what's real and what's live and direct. Dhoruba, I want, if you don't mind, I want you to make the connection between cop cities and what's going on in Gaza and what's going on in the Sudan and the Sahel, and also tell us why it's important for folks to have Beyond Cop Cities in their library, because I know that you got a copy the first day it dropped when you was in Atlanta. So, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
Thanks, Joy. Joy brought to mind something that I've always wanted to say. Cop City, the idea and the concept of Cop City, or of regularizing and systematizing law enforcement as an arm, as an extension of the states, of the corporate state's control over the masses of the American people. When Joy was talking, and we mentioned Elon Musk and how the oligarchy has moved from the shadows into the open center of daylight, into the broad daylight, in the center of power, in public power. The phenomena of technology and its development since the end of World War II has made the idea and the notion of nationalism and self-determination a questionable proposition. By that I mean, we no longer have an oligarchy or a capitalist ruling class that is nationalistic in and of itself. We have a global oligarchy now. The Elon Musk and the Bill Gates, these multi-billionaires are transnational. They impact the whole entire planet. And this means that we have to revisit the idea and the notion that nationalism is the most adequate instrument to express a people's will and right to self-determination. Nationalism. Because if one nation state can alter the course of planetary history, then what are we talking about here? We have to really understand that when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we're not talking about establishing individual nation states and their right to self-determination, because white supremacy is a global phenomenon. It's a global exercise of geopolitical power and militarism. The United States military is a global entity. It seeks to what they call full spectrum control of every region on the planet at the same time. Okay? So when we talk about Cop City, we're talking about the training of the domestic military arm of the corporate state or of the global oligarchy. Davros. We remember how Davros started, of all these billionaires and big willies and corporate execs coming together to determine how the world was going to go, how we're going to create the financial system we're going to create, how we're going to start putting barcodes in the back of people's heads. So now when they go to shop, all you got to do is scan the barcode, and they say, well, you ain't got no money in your account, or we know you broke, so you can't get nothing, you can't get no food stamps. We have to understand that globalization challenges individual groups, tribes, ethnic minorities, challenges them to build a global resistance, a global movement. So what we're looking for is the United States of Africa. What we're looking for is the abolishment of nation states, because technology has made nation states. Technology has made communications, has made our culture, has made an entire generation a global village. Right now, as we speak, a baby murdered in the Gaza, we could witness in real time. We can get that information in real time because of technology. And so when we look at Cop City, why are they placed in the strategic positions that they are placed, contiguous with urban areas where people of color and working poor people are the majority? Why are they there? Why are they that close? Why is it necessary? Why don't they put them out in the desert somewhere? Why isn't Cop City in the middle of the Nevada desert? Because in the middle of the Nevada desert, there's nothing but geckos and reptiles and snakes. But we must really question now the fact that the United States, as a European settler state, has a right to exist at all as the part of the human family. We have come to the point where the United States and nation states with nuclear weapons can wipe us all out in the blink of an eye, based on their national interests, based on their national uh, um, uh, uh, acquisition of resources. So I'm trying to say that the idea and the notion of a cop city is a modern version of Fort Apache. You remember back when they were conquering, when the European settlers were conquering the native indigenous people, and they had, the further they moved west, they would always establish forts. And in these forts, they would put their troops, and their troops would control the area around the fort. And then settlers would move in and take land and establish farms and everything, and the soldiers would task with protecting them. And it's ironic that these idiots that are running the government right now, Orange Man just came out and blurted it out. He's going to remove the Palestinian people and create a Riviera type real estate situation in the Eastern Mediterranean, in Western Asia.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's how they see us. We have not, whether we're talking about the Nation of Islam, whether we're talking about the so-called black left, which is not left. There's no left in America. Whether we're talking about so-called abolitionists, we have to understand that these notions of power technology has made obsolete, first of all. And second of all, our failure to recognize that Africans in the United States are a domestic colony. Our failure to really push that analysis to the forefront of our people's thinking is the reason why cop cities are necessary as far as the enemy is concerned, and why they are where they are. We are a domestic colony. Our urban areas, a concentration of urban poor, whether they're in Chicago or New York or whatever, are features of a unique form of colonization that began when we came here to North America. This process began with the seizure of land, with our working out that land, the primitive accumulation of capital that our unpaid labor brought about. And it's come to the point now where the notion of, say, black nationalism, because I started out as a black nationalist, just like Malcolm X. Now I question whether nationalism is a viable or even a strategic vision for the empowerment of our people, because our situation now is a global situation. That black people have always led oppressed people around the world, inspired oppressed people around the world. The struggles in South Africa were inspired by black folks. Ho Chi Minh, when he was in New York, went to Marcus Garvey political education classes. We need to understand that our struggle, our people's experiences from the bullwhip days up until now has been an inspiration to all oppressed people. And they then have went on to create new paradigms of resistance. The tunnels in the Gaza are based on the struggles of the Vietnamese people against American and French imperialism. Go read the tunnels of Cu Chi. Go read the struggles of the Vietnamese people, a people who struggled from one generation to the next until they won. They didn't get the memo that they were supposed to lose. They didn't get that memo. They didn't get the memo that they were fighting the most powerful military force on the planet. And before you know it, by 1973, these crackers was getting out of Vietnam hanging on helicopter skids. They won. If they could win, we can win. So Vietnam is now a nation. It's now a cogent nation, but it's impacted the entire geopolitical spectrum of Southeast Asia and half of the world. That one struggle. Same thing with China. When I was growing up, made in China was a joke. Made in China was something that was a disparaging a comment. And when I was growing up, 1 million Chinese starved to death every year. Every year. And now China surpasses the United States in the infrastructure building and the taking and the empowerment of the Chinese people, to the point where the white supremacist constructs, white supremacy, this bogus notion of the white man's burden, has now come to an end. It's time for it to go, and we have to hasten it along. But the problem is that our people are afraid. Our people are scared. They're intimidated. We talk about police brutality as if it's an aberration, when in fact, that's the police doing their job. There's no such thing as police brutality. The police are doing their job. Their job is to maintain us in this domestic colonized situation. That's their job, you see. And we must really understand that the reason why the oligarchy has moved to the center in public daylight of power in the most powerful nation on the planet is because they realize their time is up. That they have to come out of the shadows. They have to run stuff straight up. And if you don't go for it, like Trump says, you're fired. He's fired over 20,000 federal workers. He's did the work that we were trying to do for decades. And he thinks that by putting his minions in these positions of power, he's going to shore up the empire. Well, as Gwendolyn Brooks said, what will our season be which starts from fear? Live and go out and have your blooming in the noise and whip of the whirlwind. In the whirlwind, you are a citizen. In the whirlwind, you are somebody. The mere fact that we resist white supremacy makes us somebody. Somebody that the rest of the world admires and emulates. If we can do this, as Mao said, then global empowerment of working people, of poor people, becomes possible. It becomes indeed a vision. That's what we're fighting for now. We're fighting not just for Black people, we're fighting for humanity, the whole of humanity. And we cannot surrender, and we can't be afraid. What is there to fear? Cop cities exist because the white supremacist construct is afraid of us. They fear us. And if they could keep us in this semi-conscious state, if they can keep us intimidated and afraid of the police and of police violence, then they've won. They could hold on a little more. So that's why they're building a cop city. But Hamas has taught us a lesson, right? When we saw the hostages being released, the captives from Hamas being released, there were thousands and thousands of Hamas and Al-Qassam fighters dressed in black, escorting the captives to the UN, peacekeeper, to the UN people who were negotiating the transfer. Weren't we told that Hamas was being defeated, that there's thousands and thousands of Hamas fighters who were trapped in the tunnels and were killed? Weren't we told that Hamas was a failure? And here we see them in broad daylight. Didn't they tell us that the Palestinian people despised Hamas because they brought all this misery down on them? And we saw the Palestinian people cheering on Al-Qassam Brigade fighters. We saw the Palestinian people patting them on the back. We must understand that these cop cities are not a sign or a symbol or a construct of victory and success. They are a manifestation of fear. They are afraid of us. and what we can become and what we can do. And I believe it was Solinka who wrote the book of how all that the great powers collapse from the middle, from the center. They disintegrate from the center. Well, we're in the belly of the beast. And if there's any people that white supremacy fears the most, it's African people in the United States. They fear us the most. They are afraid of us. That's why they lynched us. They are afraid of us. If you ask a white person, what has so-called black racism did to them? How does it affect you? They can't name one instant where so-called black racism has impacted on them. But if you ask white folks, is there white racism? They'll say, yeah, they have to. And how does it affect black people? It affects them in education. It affects them in housing. It affects them in policing. It affects them in all ways. And then when you turn around and ask them, well, how does black racism affect you? They're quiet. Because there's no such thing as black racism. Because racism and white supremacy is a function of power. It's an expression of power. And the police on our doorstep is an expression of the fear of the most powerful ruling elites on the planet. They are afraid of us. So that's why they had to silence Malcolm. That's why they silenced Lumumba. That's why they silenced all of our freedom fighters and Amilcar Cabral. And what I have to say, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, they could kill me tomorrow. They could have did that when I was in prison, but I'm too black to crack. And I may be 80, going on 81. I'm too bold to grow old. Why? Because I know they're afraid of me. Not because I'm some terrible, revolutionary who could, bring down the empire. No, they're afraid of the spirit of resistance that can empower people, that can make people stand up and find their own meaning in this world. And I just want to end by saying, black liberation is no longer about black self-determination. It's about saving this planet. It's about saving humanity. And that's why we have to fight. We have to fight the enemies of the sun. They're no longer just our enemy. They're the enemy of creation. They're the enemy of this very planet, the only planet that we got. That's why Elon Musk is talking about going to the moon, spending all this money on the moon, transporting thousands and thousands of people to the moon. Why? Because he knows this is a black planet, that this planet is not going to be controlled by him much longer. And they got the nuclear weapons. They got all of that stuff. But if they want to use it, they're going to kill themselves. And when they kill themselves, we're going to be like the human version of the cockroach. We're going to still be here. We will survive America because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of our stamina. They're afraid of our resistance and our legacy. So I just want to say that when Joy talks about how the paradigm of power is constructed in a way where the cop city's placement is an expression and a reflection of U.S. imperialism abroad. There's a reason why the U.S. trains with Israelis to control the Palestinian people, to experiment with so-called mowing the grass, as the IDF calls it. Because we're the grass here, and they intend to mow our ass, And me, I'm like that weed, The more you cut me down, the quicker you cut me down, the faster I grow back. So, cop cities, they're an expression and a manifestation of institutional and white supremacist fear.
Hey man, when you said you was like that weed, I was like, man, listen, man, we ain't talking about no weed on here today. But anyway, definitely appreciate you laying it down. Now for the viewers, I mean, if you didn't get anything out of this broadcast today, then I don't really know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? In the mortal words of Pac, I see the future and it's hopeless. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't get nothing out of this, then I don't know what to say. I mean, like, go do something else. But I I want to invite folks again to pick up the book Revolution in These Times, which is available on Common Notions Press, commonnotions.org. You can get your copy. It drops this Tuesday, February 18th. I also want to invite you to pick up Beyond Cop Cities, Dismantling State and Corporate Funded Armies and Prisons. It's available on Pluto Press, plutobooks.com. That's plutobooks.com. Again, I want to thank Dr. Joy James, on a personal level, because for me to have the opportunity to contribute to both of these works, I think they're great works, and they're not great works because I contributed, but they're great works because they're great works. You know what I mean? And to see them manifest, the work we do, I think the most beautiful thing, and I think I speak for all of us, is seeing results. Seeing results where we can, like Dhoruba said, that physical manifestation when you can touch it, because sometimes, as Dhoruba always talks about fighting a forest fire with a feather, it damn sure seems like we fighting forest fires with feathers out here. And the feathers he talking about, I don't know about him, but the feathers, I got a damn pigeon feather or something from the Bronx. Shout out to the Bronx.
I'm plucking feathers from the American eagle.
Okay,
so by the time when this fire goes out, the eagle is gonna be featherless. So so that's the way I get my feathers from, the bald eagle.
No doubt. But definitely check it out. Also, support our works. Black Power Media Reloaded. We're on YouTube, blackpowermedia.org. If you want to join the mailing list, we have a new issue of Afro Pick, which drops on this Monday. The magazine Afro Pick drops this Monday. Again, the book Revolution in These Times drops Tuesday. Leonard Peltier is scheduled to be released this Tuesday. We have a lot more coming up. We have some surprises. Check out our morning show, the International Morning Show, Rise Up International Morning Show, which comes on Tuesdays through Fridays on Black Power Media, Reloaded on YouTube. Also check out, I think we'll probably have some Guerrilla Intellectual Universities coming again soon as well with Dr. Joy James. We have Amandala with Dr. Gerald Horn, our brother Boona, and others. Professor Griff has a show on this platform, Arm the Masses, on Mondays and Wednesdays at noon. U.S. Political Prisoners and You on this platform, 1 p.m. on Wednesdays. We have Daughters of the Whirlwind, Mondays, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'm talking Eastern. We're on the East Coast, by the way. And a whole lot more. I know I'm forgetting some things. Vital Hoops.
That's right. Can't forget Vital Hoops. We
Can't forget
charge
Vital
colonialism.
Hoops. Yes, we charge colonialism. And shout out to all our workers who have helped to rebuild what it is we've been working on for the past year. So we appreciate you. Make sure you support. We also take financial contributions. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We're not good at begging around here, but on the bottom
of
the joint.
Speaking of begging, I want to talk to Joy and you about editing that transcript that I did, Beggars on Horseback.
Okay, well, it's a done deal.
Creating a Pan-African paradigm in the 21st century. I wrote it in Africa in 1998.
Yep, I got a copy of
it. So when I went back and read it, I said, oh, whoa, this is now. And so I would love it if you guys could edit it, we could add some new analysis to it, especially given the reality of technology and virtual intelligence, and because none of that was really included in the text. It was mainly about money and creating a Pan-African paradigm in the 21st century. And since then, of course, Muammar Gaddafi, who was financing that very Pan-African paradigm I wrote about in 1998, has been assassinated. Libya is a failed state. The war in Ukraine and the waged by NATO in the United States, the uprising in Western Asia by the Palestinian people seeking liberation, seeking relief from the white supremacist settler Zionist state of Israel. All of these factors, I really didn't go into depth in Beggars on Horseback. I focused mainly in Africa. So, and I think that if Joy and you could read it and start slinging arrows at me and hitting me in the head with criticisms and telling me that I ain't making sense here, or what I'm saying here is incomplete, I think we could come up with one of your 6-month books. You understand? that by the end of the year, given the rate that the Orange Man is going, if we're still here and we didn't get atomized, by the end of the year, I think that would be right on point. So yeah, I want to holler at you. So you still got that copy of Beggars on Horseback. So where you got it, in the back of the kitchen, man, somewhere?
Nah, we're going. Send us another copy to make sure I got the whole thing. And
okay.
I speak to my.
But did Joy ever see that?
No, I never saw it. But forward it to me, if you will, and we could just have tea. We don't have to hit you up or whatever else you were saying. We could just have a conversation.
We non-violent, brother. Go ahead.
We'll be non-violent to us. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm glad you put that qualification in there, because I didn't want people to think that I had grown mellow in my old age, man. You know, I might not be able to wrestle around on the ground with these youngins like I used to, but I do understand how to be expeditious in a confrontation where you know that might doesn't always make right. So yeah, I really want you to look at that, Joy. I don't know. I've been vacillating for months. Every time I think about it, I say, man, you got to send this to Joy. Somehow or other, I get that political Alzheimer's disease, and I don't send it to you. So, yeah, if Kalonji got a copy, please, Kalonji, share it with her. And I'm going to get on my laptop here. I think I got it, but my hard drive, I can't start my external hard drive because I don't have the plug broke. The power cord is, and it's one of those proprietary power cords. But I think I got a draft here.
Well,
I'll look forward to seeing it this week or next. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
No doubt. Well, you heard it here. There will be a sequel to the sequel to the sequel. Make sure that you all catch up. And again, we appreciate. I don't have guests on here. We appreciate family for stopping through. Keyanna, appreciate you riding shotgun. You know what I mean? You came through slinging guns. That's my kind of passer. You know what I'm saying? Pass ammunition. You know what I'm saying?
Always a pleasure. Always an honor and a pleasure.
No doubt. Dr. Joy James, appreciate you for stopping through. I know that, you always have a lot going on, and I'm definitely happy to see my sister stop through and, and catch wreck with us ruffians, Dhoruba in particular. He's kind of off the chain. So definitely appreciate you, Joy, for stopping through.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, son. And it was an honor and a privilege to finally hit it up with the sister Keyanna. She's been doing work, and there's a number of people that sometimes I only get their names when I see them in a YouTube session, and I want to say I try to recirculate the video to people that are bordering on consciousness. I think that we have a unique opportunity in the wake of the student protests against genocide in Western Asia against the Palestinian people. There's an entire generation that's been the veil of Americanism has been snatched from them. And so they're ready for this type of education. They're ready to read this type of literature. And it reminds me of the 60s and the student movement against the war in Vietnam, which ultimately brought the United States out of Vietnam, took the United States out of Vietnam. It took years, but it worked. And so the United States won. They claim to have won all the military victories on the field, but they lost the war. So
yeah, With that being said, you've been watching RSTV. This is Black Power Media. I lied to my folks on the screen. I'm like, we're gonna do about an hour. As you see, we're at 2 hours, and y'all ain't got to go home, but you know what's about to happen right now. Anyway, you checking out RSTV. Be safe. Y'all travel safe, comrades, and we will see you soon. Dr. James, you got some closing words?
Just my love and appreciation to all.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, y'all. Till next time, we will see you in the whirlwind. RSTV. We are out of here. I think we out of here. Hold up. I forgot they got me on the joint today. Shout out to shout out to all the folks behind the scene, Sister May, etc., who kind of keep us going when we're doing what we're doing. All right, y'all. Be safe out there. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and share this platform. Peace.
Peace out.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one, or the battle is to love yourself and function in society where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares, mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces when it's on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution. It's real solutions. What we've taken